I wanted to welcome everyone to this evening's discussion and meeting. It comes at a very serious time following an action by our Board of Trustees that raises heightened concern to all of Howard University stakeholders. This meeting is convened by concerned alumni and others, including students and faculty, about these recent actions. Last week, former Dean Bill Damani Keene organized a meeting to discuss issues of concern and to try to gather information about this particular development following a presentation by Board Trustee Lawrence Morris the previous week, at which time most of us learned for the first time about the board's actions. The board's actions effectively eliminated the voting presence of faculty, alumni, and students from our Board of Trustees. This particular meeting is not designed to discuss the substance of that at this particular stage, but in the information gathering process, the historical development of the notion of shared governance has become critical, and it's critical for us to understand that particular history. There are gathered here on this call a significant group of people of all generations of alumni with a diverse background. And I note, including C. April Silver, who was USA president in '89 or thereafter, and led the student protest at the particular time, to our next speaker, who will be followed by Mr. Timothy and Attorney Timothy Jenkins. We wanted to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule. It means a lot. So Timothy, thank you so much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Once upon a time, when Dr. Mordecai Johnson was president of Howard, I was a student in the College of Liberal Arts, and I subsequently became the president of the Student Council. And in that role, Dr. Johnson used to take me with him at meetings that dealt with the university issues, because it was his opinion that students should be part of the university. And I participated when he met with heads of state, when he met with people in the Congress, when he met with people in the White House. He was always willing to have me participate as a student voice in all of those discussions. I was shocked and dismayed then when I got the information that a judgment had been made by the current Board of Trustees to eliminate any role for students, faculty, or alumni in the governance of the university. And when I was alarmed by this, it sent me scurrying to my papers and my dusty files, and I found the memorandum that I think was perhaps useful. It was dated April 17, 2015. And it is a letter that I sent to Chairman Mobley of the Board of Trustees. It's not very long, I'll read it. The record will show that as an alumni trustee back in the day, I made the original motion to add faculty and student representatives to the Howard University Board of Trustees. This allowed me to authoritatively assure that it was never the policy or the intent of that action to invite or allow the rest of the board to veto or amend respective faculty or student trustee choices. It comes as a moral shock then that without consulting the record, or those of us familiar with that record, not to mention a full and open debate, the current board threatens to alter the original intent of unfettered constituent membership to newly grant itself veto power over rather than pro forma acceptance of duly certified constituent trustee choices. The whole purpose and spirit of our opening the Board of Trustees to be inclusive of all of our constituencies was to assure unadulterated input rather than a filtered perspectives of others already appointed and anointed. The whole purpose and spirit of our opening the board to be inclusive of all our constituencies was to assure unadulterated input rather than filtered perspectives of others already appointed and anointed. As a former student body president, a formally designated distinguished professor, a past two-term elected alumni trustee, I strongly urge the board to resist the misguided retreat from full and democratically elected constituency membership on the board, so as not to be destructive of the enlightened principle of collective strength so sorely needed during these coming days of trial. That was a memo that I had drafted April 17, 2015. I thought that had been put to rest, but to my surprise, through emails and other communications, it's clear that the current Board of Trustees knows nothing of that history, has no respect for that history, and has no intention of following the spirit of inclusive representation in the governance of the university. That, to me, is shocking. It is ignorant and it is destructive. I think it's important for us, who are the constituents of Howard, to make known to the board that they are not appointed to be our overseers. They are appointed to help us develop the institution to higher levels of competence and importance. There was a statement that Mordecai Johnson used to make. It was, "Who shall watch the watchman?" drawn from the Old Testament. And that certainly obtains here today. Who shall watch the Board of Trustees, if not the students, if not the faculty, if not the alumni? So I think what we have to really consider is the way in which we preserve the importance of shared collective participation as a part of the inherent nature of the operation of our university. That means that we must make clear to the president, to the chairman of the Board of Trustees, to all the members of the Board of Trustees and its committees, and all the constituents of the university, that this is no time to retreat or go back. When I was a member of the Board of Trustees, I also participated in the receipt of a study, which was a comprehensive study of the university governance. I don't know that, and it was conducted by the Arthur D. Little Business Group. And in it, it lays out, and this was issued in October of 1974, and it was issued to describe clearly and unambiguously the nature of Howard University's governance structure. That was 1974. There's no reference, as I can see, in the current discussion of the board to change the governance, that they are aware that that even was a report that was adopted by the board and studied over a period of years. What seems to me is missing is a lack of respect for procedure, a lack of respect for mutuality, a lack of respect for the harmony of making any major changes in the way the university operates. We should not have to have demonstrations as the only method to make resistance to change or to exact change. We should be able to sit down as intelligent people and discuss what the interests are that we share and the best way to accomplish those interests. That has been totally disrespected. To this date, I have no understanding of what procedure was followed, what documents were reviewed, what records have been made of the votes that were cast to radically change the structure of the governance of the university. That is unthinkable in a serious institution. And in an institution of higher education, where there's supposed to be a respect for knowledge, it is an ignorant way to go about policy change. I think the main thing that we should do is to make sure that we're in agreement that collectively we want to have a role in the way in which Howard University goes forward, so that it is not just operated as a clique of insiders, but also includes the constituencies who have made Howard great. The history of higher education in the Black community is such that once upon a time, all Black universities were governed by appointed trustees from high economic and political interests. That was revolutionized in the 1970s, and it changed to a new pattern. But this action that is purported to be now the new governing principle of Howard totally disregards that evolution. And it seems to me that's a tragedy that we ought not abide. So I think it's important for us to look at, I'm a lawyer, and I look at legal instruments as being of some value, but more important than legal instruments are moral principles. And I want to see what the moral principle is behind destroying the voice of alumni, faculty, and students in the way in which Howard University goes forward. It would be useful for the people who voted for that change to read that report on the comprehensive study of university governance and management of 1974, issued by the Arthur D. Little management group. It would be useful for them to understand the way in which the laws and rules of Howard University have emerged and been encoded over a course of some 60 years. There has been faculty representation or student representation since the 1920s. And now we could adopt a radical rule that eliminates all of that. On what precept? Nobody has laid out any precept. I haven't seen one shred of paper that describes the justification for this radical change. It seems to me that what we need to make sure of is that this is not perpetuated and does not lead to the destruction of the positive direction that Howard is facing. And that's why I think this discussion is important, because I think it needs to be a general opinion, not just my opinion or some handful of people who are disgruntled by the action. We need to have a comprehensive and cooperative approach. And we need to approach the president and the chairman of the board of trustees to sit down and talk to a representative group of faculty, alumni, and students on the question of how the university goes forward. That's in essence what I have to say, but it can go in greater detail, but I don't want to monopolize what is importantly a group discussion.